Greetings, 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 good people. If you're new here, welcome. If you are not, welcome back. All right, so Carlos King sat down with basketball wives Chantel Christie for an interview, okay? Most of you have probably seen it by now. It was whack, to say the least. I'm going to be straightforward with you guys. The first attempt to watch this 2-hour interview, I lasted 16 minutes and 47 seconds. And in that short period of time, I already saw the BS. I saw where this was going, and I felt it was a waste of my time. I did go back and kind of skip around and sort of kind of floated on to the end. But this was a total waste of time for me anyway, okay? Jackie Christie is the daughter, Chantel Christie is the daughter of Jackie Christie. She decided, Chantel that is, decided to come on this season of Basketball Wives for God knows what, okay? In the first 16 minutes and 47 seconds that I watched at first, right? She was not remorseful. Okay, fine. You know, that's her choice. And I do like the fact that Carlos stated emphatically, I think 2 or 3 times, that Chantel was the one that reached out to him for this interview. And he pretty much made it happen. You know, he set up a makeshift studio. He had whoever he needed to have, his production team, and he made the interview happen. And I like the fact that he stated it more than once, because I know a lot of people would accuse him of being thirsty, of you know, whatever criticism they may come up with. Anywho, so that was out of the way. Now Chantel pretty much feels that she's justified in her behavior, and this is all her operating in her head, which again, she has every right to feel how she feels, right? She talked about her upbringing. She talked about how Jackie was always on the road with her father, Doug Christie. It's evident to me that Chantel lacks emotional intelligence, and I'm not saying this to be funny or to insult her. And her comprehension skills are lacking. Carlos asked her questions, and it seemed like she didn't either she didn't understand how to answer the questions, or she just wanted to say what she wanted to say. Okay. She talked about how her grandmother raised her. She also, going back a little bit, talked about how people assume that she was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. Although both of her parents had money, she said she was always a hustler. What? Do you not know the meaning of being born with a silver spoon in your mouth? Apparently not. She doesn't understand what a rhetorical question is. You guys seen that displayed on the show. She also goes on to talk about how she was raised in fear. She wasn't raised in love. A lot of the things that she said to me mimicked some of the comments on social media, on different social media platforms. And again, she took no accountability, and she also didn't state the issue. She said she came on the show to express how she felt and to basically, you know, talk about her issues. What issues? You didn't make anything clear. Carlos did a good job, even though people in the comments to me, Carlos did a good job. People in the comments criticized him heavily because they stated that he did not hold her accountable. I guess they wanted him to scold her, hold her feet to the fire, pretty much what most of social media has already done. That is not Carlos's job. And I think that Carlos is getting better and better, in my opinion, doing interviews. And I think Carlos is understanding rule number 1 of journalism, folks: remain unbiased. You have to be unbiased. Do you know how many interviewers in the past, Barbara Walters, Diane Sawyer, Hugh Downs, remember him from 2020? Anyway, they interviewed, you know, serial killers and people who have been jailed for the most heinous crimes. And they sat down with them for them to tell their story. This is not that extreme, but this is no different. Carlos remained unbiased. And I think that he was very approachable. And there's a reason why, though, that Shantel chose Carlos. And it's because Carlos is not going to be wagging his finger, scolding her, and making her feel uncomfortable. Because the objective as the interviewer is to get the story, get the interviewee to tell the story. And he did his job, in my opinion. He did. I understand why people think that, he didn't hold her accountable, or why people feel that way. But he's not her parent. She's an adult, he's an adult, he's an interviewer. She called him, and obviously throughout the years, Carlos has curated a safe space for some people to come and sit and interview with him. So I think for the sake of journalism, he did what he was supposed to do, okay? As far as Shantel goes, I think that this interview even further tanked her reputation. I think I said this in a previous video regarding this situation on Basketball Wives. I don't think that Shantel should have sat down and done an interview at all. I remember saying in a previous video that she should completely stay off of social media. She gave a statement. She wasn't apologetic. She turned her comments off on social media. I just think that there is a bit of arrested development as it pertains to Shantel. I don't see emotional maturity or emotional intelligence there. Carlos brought up what a lot of social media was talking about, as it pertains to Doug Christie being held accountable for Shantel's trauma that she stated she experienced at the hands of her mother. And Carlos was very clear in asking, why is it that Doug your father is not getting as much heat as your mother is getting, being that he was present for a lot of this, or, something along the lines of, he's your father. So he obviously lives in the same house as you guys. He knows what's going on. Why isn't he getting any slack? A lot of people on social media and a lot of commentators on YouTube brought this very point up. Great point. Her answer to the question is, it's my story. That's just my story. You see what I'm saying? Carlos asked you, why isn't Doug getting any of the slack if he was present for all of this treatment that you endured at the hands of your mother, or unfair treatment or abusive treatment that you experienced at the hands of your mother? Her response was, it's my story. I think that was when I said, I'm not doing this. 16 minutes and 47 seconds. And yeah, I know some people may say, you should have watched the rest of it. You should have watched the rest of it. There's nothing to watch. Like I said, I went back like a day or so later and or a couple of hours later, skipped around, and I didn't watch it straight through because I refuse to sit through foolishness. I don't believe anything that Shantel says. She may be telling the truth 20% of the time, but to me, when you lie, there's no reason for me to try to figure out if what you're saying is the lie or the truth. You've proven yourself to be a liar. A lot of people don't want her to return. I've shared the same sentiments as far as she needs to be off the show because this accomplished absolutely nothing. You were used. You were a puppet for these women who don't like your mother, and they used you, and it is pretty vile. But you also gave them an open door. Okay, you left the door open to be used by these women. And again, as far as the issue is concerned with your mother, maybe you don't want to express that on television. Again, that's your choice. But here's the thing. As far as sympathy is concerned, yeah, I don't know. It's not here. I'm not defending Jackie either because I don't think that Jackie was right. When that story came out about Takari, several seasons ago about Jackie's firstborn daughter, I thought that was disgusting. And why would anyone even want to film with her or anything? Like, what do you have to say for yourself? But Takari in recent, weeks has gone on record and on social media stating that she is in a okay place with her mother. Shantel and Takari have been going back and forth, and Shantel has been very nasty on social media talking about Takari's financial situation, it's just nasty. Chantel needs to do the work, and she needs to grow up, and the healing is her responsibility as a 30-something-year-old woman with two children and a husband. Is she married to the second child's father? I think they're married. Anyway, as a wife, mother, and an adult, it is your responsibility to heal, to seek healing. Do I think Chantel wants to heal? No. I think that she likes the attention that she's getting from disparaging her mother, because she's very well aware that the women on the show do not care for her mother. And people like Chantel who they like attention. It doesn't matter what type of attention they're getting. They could be getting yelled at, they could be getting fussed at, they could be getting praised, patted on the back. Any attention is better than no attention. And this is why I say that Arrested Development, I see it. It's kind of like she's stuck in a juvenile mind frame. And maybe that's when she experienced or endured the most trauma. Now, I'm not saying she's lying about her trauma. Absolutely not. If she says she experienced trauma, then she experienced trauma. Who am I to negate that? What I am saying is, just because you've experienced a level of trauma does not give you the right to be abusive to others. Because if we're going to give Chantel a pass, then there are individuals who are in jail right now that experienced trauma, and they inflicted pain and trauma on other people, but they're in jail. What if your mother would have called the cops on you? You would have been locked up for assault. You see what I'm saying? So you know how to act right when you need to. That's why I think sometimes this is a act, but I think that Chantel really needs to seek help and understand that her healing is her responsibility, not her mother's, not her father's, not her siblings, no one. And she mentioned that she has a strong village around her. I'm assuming these are her friends, or I don't know if it's any relatives or people she considers family. I would like to see this village, and I would be curious to know if they're cheering you on, because if you were someone that I associated with, I would let you know how I feel, and we probably wouldn't be associates anymore, because it seems to me that you want people around you that encourage your foolishness, like yes men, and people who want yes men around them. They don't want to hear anything about accountability. And the way Chantel carries herself, she is allergic to accountability, right? So this interview really did nothing for her. And I'm not saying that because Carlos did anything wrong or anything like that. Carlos did a great job of letting her talk. Okay. And sometimes you have to let a fool babble. And she did just that. And I don't know if she has a manager or she says she has a village. I would have never encouraged her to sit down and have an interview with anyone. We all saw the episode. Most of us seen the season. And instead of you coming on being, I don't want to use the word humble, but being remorseful at the entire situation, you basically doubled down again and felt justified in your actions. Again, just because you were traumatized, allegedly traumatized, let me say that, only because I don't know her, so I have to use my words wisely, right? Doesn't give you the right to traumatize or abuse or physically assault other people. If that's the case, then most of the people who are in jail for that very reason should be set free. And I don't think anybody with two functioning brain cells would think that people should be set free just because they were traumatized and they traumatized someone else. That makes absolutely no sense. But shout out to Carlos King. Like I said, I think he did, from what I seen and what I recall, 16 minutes and 47 seconds, y'all. I think he did his job. He allowed her to talk. She talked herself into a deeper hole. There's rumors circulating that she's not going to be returning to the show. I think her not returning to the show is for her best interests. And if she tries to fight that, then that's just going to further prove how foolish she is. This is not making you look good whatsoever. And trust me, those ladies are not going to have your back for a long period of time. They may have your back for a little while, but after a while, they're going to turn on you like bad jewelry. Okay? Well, ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts on the matter. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay? Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I will talk to you later.